Hey guys, it's WaifuGate here again. Today we'll be doing the viewer deck meta analysis for the week. So if you guys are interested in having your list analyzed, what we do is we just go through whatever format it's for, whether it's standard or historic are the two that I do the most. I can do Brawl, but I prefer not to, just because I haven't played that format in a while. So basically, any deck that fits into those two categories are what I have a little bit of experience with, mostly standard, but I have been breaking into playing more historic recently. So if you guys want an analysis on your deck, we break down the sideboard, the main deck, and sort of like, whether I like the list, what it would be good for, whether it's tournament play or more of a ladder climbing deck, if it's faster, etc. And that's sort of what we do. And on Saturdays, a new video comes up with viewer decks. The other times I will go into MTG Goldfish like 850 lists or whatever looks interesting in the most standard league here, and we break those decks down each week, and that comes up on Fridays. But for viewers, if you show up on Thursday, you can submit a list, and we break that down. So we'll get into the breaking down part now. So this is a list by Samsoni1 MTG. He streams on Twitch as well. He's a very good player, very awesome dude. And he dropped by the stream, and I asked if he had any decks that he would want critiques on, and he threw this list at me, which is a list I've been interested in potentially playing on the ladder for faster games. So basically what makes this list interesting is the Jengatha. So usually sack lists prefer to run like Obosh or what's the other one, Luris, but it creates a stipulation on the deck that isn't very like sought after anymore, because right now like you want the 3-drops, you want your Mayhem Devil for that quick damage, you want the Woe Strider for the extra sack outlet for claims and such. It's just very, very strong. And you don't really have a lot of 2-mana symbols that matter a lot in these colors for black and for black red. Like you could do Citadel or something kind of memey or whatever. But for the most part, this is a pretty easy stipulation to fulfill. And it gives you a 5/5 beat stick, basically. It just takes you 8 mana total. So it's 3 mana on a turn where you like use Priest of the Forgotten Gods. Because a lot of the times you're looking for that extra, mana sink, so to speak. So it kind of fulfills that. I can see that being very, very strong. Like, you claim the Firstborn, you sack your opponent's creature, and then you're like, might as well put this into my hand because it's 3 of whatever mana. And that's kind of neat. I like that interaction. It's good. And then everything else looks pretty standard in regards to choices with Sakdos. Don't really see a lot out of the ordinary aside from maybe the Judith. And that's about it. And only 2 robbers, which is a little weird to me, but I can understand it. Probably something you can easily switch out for like Rotting Regisar or 2 of something else that you need. It's sort of like a nice number. I don't have a sideboard guide, so I'm just guessing here at stuff. But it seems like it's an easy card to sideboard out when it's not relevant. And even if not, then it's only 2 and you don't have to like think about trimming it at that point. And then we've got claims for Uros, for Shark Typhoon tokens, etc. You're just able to take control and then do the whole I have 15 sack outlets, so good luck on getting your creature back type of deal. It's also got the standard like Gutter Bones, Cauldron Familiar, ping through damage, especially with Mayhem Devil or Judith up. Just seems like it has a very quick clock, and that's hard to deal with, especially with the Butcher, man. This guy is crazy. Like one Shatter's not going to do it, which is just really nice, especially when the Jagatha can come down and just be like, yo, what's up? If you don't counter me, I'm a big deal. It's like, it screams ECD me, but it's like, whatever, You just have to jam it in there anyway and make them have it. Especially if they sideboard out some copies of ECD. Because they want faster cards, more board wipes, etc. So it's basically set up to grind the ladder. It looks like I wouldn't like it. Probably does fine in tournaments, but you'd probably want to mix up the sideboard a little bit more. Have some one ofs that people have to respect, like maybe a thought distortion or something weird, you know. Especially where you get extra mana off of priest, it could be pretty interesting to try out a thought distortion for Mirror Wreck or Bant Yorian or something, you know, where they don't really have a lot of creatures to deal with. And you can just kind of wreck them with that. Kind of nice. The remorses make a lot of sense though. The shield breakers make sense for the mirror and for glass caskets and stuff. Seems solid. It's good against Jund too in some capacity because you can blow up their oven on top of blowing up like a citadel maybe if it gets to that late game and you haven't dropped this as a 2-drop or you top deck it. Oh yeah, that's also true, Samsoni. Yeah, that's a good point. The thought distortion does ruin that. That is a good point. That's fair. On top of it just being a really clunky card, right? I think you could still drill bit. Drill bit might be interesting for the sideboard for extra hand hate, but I understand the remorse because you're more in it for the long run in regards to potentially exiling an Uro or whatever. Soul Guides could be okay for Just Guy Cycle, but I'm not even sure how popular that list is. I haven't been playing Standard that much, so I can't give direct feedback on that. But if I were running into a lot of cycle lists, like maybe some number, like even just one Soul Guide Lantern for the out could be pretty interesting, pretty good. Because I don't think that ruins Jengatha's restriction either. Rotting makes a lot of sense just so you can you know, race the Bant mid-range decks down potentially. Like if they don't have the ECD for it, it's very, very strong. And like, I don't know what else you bring that in against. Like general aggro is good as long as they don't have claim. Tamir Rack. Oh yeah, hoses Tamir Rack, eh? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. They can't deal with it if it resolves. They have to like brazen bounce and then like counter it, which means that they're spending a lot of mana on not winning the game. Not casting Wilderness Wreck or whatever. That's good. On top of that, you hit them with Remorse so that you take away their one answer to Rotting Regisar, and then the next turn you jam it. Makes a lot of sense. Nice. 2 Castle Lockwains. Usually I see 3, but I can understand 2. Probably crunch the numbers on that a lot. Grasp is, I guess, for Teferi, for Yorian, just so you don't have to deal with a 4/5 is pretty good. It's always free. And it can hit a Teferi or something else as well. Pretty nice. Probably not terrible against mono white either, since you just kill all of their creatures with it. Something thick like a Loxodon just gets blown out. Kind of nice. You can see it being pretty versatile. And then the 2 active treasons for bigger creatures as well. I like it. I'd say if I was into like grinding the ladder for fast games and whatnot, if I was more interested in Standard, I would play this deck and at least test it out and do a co-stream at some point. Especially now that my schedule is not garbage, like it's probably a lot easier to catch me and actually do co-stream stuff and still, instead of like at the end of your streams, we could probably both be streaming at the same time and doing the co-stream thing, which would be pretty fun. So that's good. So maybe we'll do that eventually. We want to take a shot at that. I've been rocking like Bant Nexus recently. You'd be down? All right, nice. We'll do that soon then. So it is 8 right now, 8 p.m. We're thinking about closing the stream down, but I got to finish up this video first. And not right away either. Like I might do some other stuff. But yeah, I like this list. I'm interested in it, so I'll probably tag you for that. I'll message you on Discord and we can figure out a time. Do that. Play some Paper Magic for the first time in 3 months. Nice, dude. Good luck with that, man. I hope you you have fun doing that, dude. I want to play some EDH eventually. I'm shuffling my EDH deck as we speak. I've been itching to play, but there's no one to play with around here. Maybe I'll have to see if any shops are open or whatever. Go out and do that eventually. But yeah, interesting list. I'm excited to see how it performs in the ladder when I do that co-stream with Samsoni. And all of these lists will be down below in the description for the YouTube video as well. So this list was a blast. This is a Strider Stone special. I had a lot of fun with this. Oh, that's the stretch alarm. So I've also got to stretch at some point. We'll do that. I'll probably stretch after this video. This shouldn't take too long. So this list was a blast. If you guys want to see me play this deck, just check out Striderstone's channel. I'll try to remember to link that. Here, I'll make a note. Maybe link Strider's video of me playing. That way I can kind of remember to do that and add that as an extra thing later on once that video's out. I don't know how much editing needs to happen for that, for the thumbnail and everything else. For one, I changed a few things with this list. So what I'll do is I'll actually go into MTG Arena for this one. So this is what I think I would run. So 2 searches, Growth Spiral, Teferis. The thing that I changed from this list was I cut 2 Gaia's Blessing for 2 search for Azcanta because it's an early game play that does more. And then the other thing I did was I cut the bindings for Elspeth Conquers Death after playing the list and getting blown out by Teferis bouncing my stuff. The Bant or U-White matchup for Historic is terrible when you have to worry about Teferi 3 just bouncing and ruining everything. This card avoids that completely and gives us recursion on, like, you know, Nissa or a Tamiyo or a Teferi or an Uro proc at the very worst to draw and go with that. Like, we get to draw and potentially ramp and gain a bit of life against aggro, which is not dead when you're talking about Elspeth, just finding a target. Helpful. So basically the idea behind this deck is you have Scepter that you put a charge counter on it for 4 mana, right? That's part of the combo. You have to manually put 1 counter on this at some point in the game. And then you have Plane-Wide Celebration and a Tamiyo. That's the combo. And then you proliferate the Tamiyo and the Scepter, and then you profit. You get 4 proliferations, so you always go up by 1 on your Planeswalkers and up by 1 on the Scepter. And then you just take infinite turns. You -3 the Tamiyo for the plane wide, and you keep going with it, okay? And you have really good tools to stop aggro, such as Shatter the Sky, Elspeth's, and Teferi to bounce. And you can also, like, proliferate Teferi, so you can always be bouncing and drawing an extra card each turn. And eventually you get to the point where you have Nissa, and you can proliferate her on top of the lands that she makes. There's a lot of good utility with this that goes together. It all kind of comes together. And I think the changes from binding to Elspeth's is really nice, especially since we sometimes ramp with Uro. We had Tide, but it was too slow. We ended up cutting it for better cards like Teferi. It just was unnecessary, because once you get it set up to where it's Tamiyo plus plane wide and the Scepter, you don't need anything else. It's like enough to go infinite, right? Why proliferate more when you already win with what we have, you know? We can also speed up the process of Elspeth to get back one of our Planeswalkers to combo with the plane wide now as well, which is really, really interesting and awesome. So that's pretty cool. And you eventually just win. The land base is a little expensive too, but if you're playing Historic, you're playing Historic. You know, you gotta invest into the lands. It has a lot of weird rares as well, like who runs Scepter, right? Everything else is kind of standard though. You have Bant built in standard. Aside from like the Planeswide and the Scepters, it's pretty cheap. But yeah, the reason why I'm going into detail on this is because it's kind of an awkward list. And if you're interested in the list and playing it, I kind of wanted people to know how to do so and what I think of the deck and how I would change it. I already went over how I would change this list, which is remove the bindings here. So let's do that part of it. So I removed Gaia's for search because it's just better and we don't really run out of cards. Even the one game that was very, very close against Field of the Dead during the video we recorded, we just smashed through with like 8-9 cards left in the library anyway, even though we were drawing a card off of like Uro and stuff. It was like kind of weird. But eventually the lands become like 15/15s that they can't block anymore. And you're taking infinite turns, so they lose chumpers really, really fast, despite the lack of trample in this list. And then I took out the bindings for Elspeth's because basically Teferi 3 It's very, very vulnerable when you have Teferi 3 bouncing this, or Elspeth Conquers Death hitting this card. At least if Elspeth Conquers Death hits Elspeth Conquers Death, you just don't care that much because you already removed a Teferi or you removed a Tamiyo from the opposing side, you know? Like, you cashed in value, you removed something most likely. And if this got countered, so would have your Ixalons, or they would have let the Ixalons through so they can bounce it with Teferi and then counter the next thing. You know, it just, this doesn't have as many loose ends to me. So that's what I would change about the list. And this list is very fun for best of one, just kind of chilling out on the ladder and enjoying Magic. And playing Nexus in best of one is always awesome, right? There's no sideboard here. So I would say we could include a sideboard and do like Fae of Wishes if we really wanted to do something spicy with the list, but I don't think it's necessary. I just think that it gives you an advantage in best of one, so you could be like, veto, an extra planes wide. Like, you could slide one of the planes wides to the sideboard, for example. You can do like Cleansing Nova. You can do a bunch of stuff, and just put like one Fae main deck instead of like an Uro or something. Go like Fae of Wish. And that gives you also a way to discard cards like Shatter the Sky and whatnot for other things. And it would just allow us to combo off a little bit faster if we had the plane wide in the sideboard as well. Because then if people like Unmoored Ego, if they know the deck, then you can kind of save some of your win cons in the sideboard, which is interesting. Definitely have like an extra Nissa, an extra Tamiyo here. So that's how I would change this list, is by including also Tamiyo. Wow, I forget. Like a Tamiyo here, Celebration here. Like that way we're not so vulnerable to main deck removal, or if someone removes our graveyard, etc. We have some way to come back. Clear the Mind, for example, is very good too. Like it ties up a lot of loose ends with the deck, and sacrificing one Uro seems worth it to me. Just for the one of Fae, because that seems really, really powerful. It's also a chumper. You throw this guy down, or this girl down, and just kind of block something up too, so I think I would probably do that. You also have access to like Meteor Golem, whatever you want, basically in the sideboard. The options are like limitless, Heliod's, whatever you want, man. Scepter, so you don't have to look through your deck for it. I think this would be a good addition. Just to kind of go over the top with the list. Nissa, whatever you want, man. Sure. And then that also frees up a space in the main deck that we can use for something. Like maybe we could even go 2-phase. Might make it clunky though. Like, not having the extra ramp. Like we can just put the Uro back up to 4, right? Since we took out a Planeswide and slid it to the sideboard. So basically we're just increasing our chances of drawing, and we can put a search for Azcanta. Yeah, I think this is just better, Strider. I think this is what you need to do with the list. If you're gonna jam best of one, you need Fae or something, or Karn. The sideboard. Even Karn could be okay. Shuts down like silly decks from the sideboard. You can go. What else could you go? And then I can export this for you too, or whatever, get it ready to export. Because I think I would be interested in jamming this in best of one to Mythic, even. Like just kind of chilling out and doing something where I don't have to think about the sideboard. So I could definitely spend a little while on this trying to figure out exactly what's the best. I could go to Teferi, Hero of Dominaria as well. Not that one though. What else? Something that gains life, like Timely Reinforcements. Like anything that can save our life that's really cheap. Revitalize is like Desperation. Maybe like Disenchant or something. Or Wilt. I think Wilt's just better, isn't it? Because it can cycle later on. So Wilt for 2 mana, being able to deal with an artifact or an enchantment. Boom. For 2 mana, something cheap. Maybe a Brazen Bar. No, we can't do Brazen. We could do Blink of an Eye. It's a good bounce spell because it can draw us a card as well. If something's bothering us. And then like what? What else? Maybe Pulse. Pulse could be okay. Elspeth could be fine, like Elspeth. Grabbing Elspeth from the sideboard is awesome. So something like this, I would say. This is very close to what I would run. It makes no sense to me not to run Fae. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. We have an extra board wipe already, right? Like the Cleansing Nova? Yeah. So there's that as well. So that's good. This also has the upside of like blowing up enchantments and artifacts if we need it to. So I like this a lot. So I'll go ahead and export this and probably just include this in the links below instead of Strider's original deck, which I think is just not as good as my version. Mainly just because it's min-maxed for like best of one, I think, and I think they're just better cards. Because we kind of, I get a feel for what the deck wanted to do, but I love the idea behind it. So traditional historic, I guess. And then create, import. This is also a tutorial on how to import and export a deck. So there you guys go with that. Import. I'll even set this up on my Twitch, my main deck, because I love it. So then we'll just simply replace this link with the one I had here for Striders. And that'll be the updated list. That way you can check it down below. Perfect. So that'll be that. I think that's how I'd change that deck, is just making it more versatile for best of one and capitalizing on the advantage of having something to where we can grind out any type of deck for the most part. I'd say like maybe a Nissa somewhere, maybe instead of the Teferi, but we'll see. See how it all goes. And remember, you can use your regular hero of Teferi if you don't have the promo. So next deck. So we've got a Luca. We've got one Luca. We've got Goblin Gathering. We've got Divine Arrow. This is a mess. We've got Cavalcade with Ember Hauler. So this looks like it's historic, right? I think. I've never seen this card before. What is this from? Silverwing Skull. I don't even know where that's from, dude. Silverwing. Collected. What is this from? It looks like it's from like Dominaria or something, right? I don't know what set that's from. Wind Scarred, so budget lands. Okay, so this is like a budget deck that someone's running for the most part. You have Hexproof, create a token, pacifisms. So I'm gonna have to go and do like surgery on this deck, I think. If I was actually gonna be like any way of having critique for this. I think I need to try to figure this out. Because there's a lot of anti-synergy with this. So this is... I don't know what set that's from, man. Bugging me. This is... What's this from? Is this from Dominaria? I don't even know what that symbol is. I think it's like Ravnica, right? Guilds. What set are you from? So this is standard. So it is standard legal. Okay, so now I know what format we're in. That's good. So you've got 4 Evolving Wilds. You got 1 Luca. I don't even know what this Luca's trying to hit though. Like this list doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because if you want like a Cavalcade deck, there's Cavalcade, and then if you want a token deck, you've got to be doing more with it, like Loxodons or something else. Divine Arrow's kind of bad. Shocks are kind of okay. It just seems like it's really stuck between decks. Like whether it wants to be a Cavalcade or a red deck. Like I don't think we run Ember Haulers with Cavalcade. I think Cavalcade goes up to 4. This doesn't make sense. Deal 4 damage. This is kind of okay. Goblin Gathering's fine if we're going with that type of stuff. Deals 2 damage to that player. Okay. I don't think the Luca makes sense though. Like we're not cheating anything into play. Like yeah, we have stuff, but this doesn't make sense to me. This is a 6-drop. Oh, I guess that's what the Luca's for, is to get this into play, since it doesn't have any creatures. Is that worth it? Maybe if we had 2 of these. I don't want to craft them. This is an interesting deck. Like everything else makes sense. Like sure, probably not the pacifisms though. Like I just want to turn this into a into a into a Cavalcade deck and just drop the white. Very interesting list. I'd say like the Chandras can come up too if you're not on a budget, but if you're on a budget, these things are rotating, so I don't know. Very weird. Hard. And like we have this and Pride Mates, it's like we're in between like 2 or 3 different types of decks. It's like someone had a budget mono white life gain list and a Cavalcade list, and the dude was like, hey, I like both of these decks, but I don't have wild cards for both of them and I can't pick out which deck I want. And they just kind of squashed them together, and this is what we have. That's basically the vibe that I'm getting from this. So I think what we do is we make it into more of a Cavalcade deck with like white cards as a support, but I'm not sure if that's good. Like I need 1-drops. I need 1-drops that I'm not thinking about right now. So 1-drops. Creatures. Where's the creature tag? Right here. The 1-drop creatures. These guys are fine. We can have Cavalcade procs, and you can also protect some of the bigger dudes, maybe. Because this can give you your enchantment protection, so they can't bounce Cavalcade. You can like prevent that, which is kind of interesting. Hunted Witness is fine because it provides us another thing for Cavalcade here. Like that. Champion's fine too. Because as they swing in, they're good, right? But Champion's not budget. So this is budget, right? Need to make sure this is budgeted out for this person. Ginger Brute's fine. This is fine. The Mentor is fine, but it's kind of weird. Maybe Scorch Spitters are fine too. Maybe not Flame Spill. Goblin Gatherings are cute. I don't think we need this ley line. How many lands do we have? 23? That might be a little too much for this deck. It might be a little too much. So maybe trim like 2 of these. Maybe 21. 21 for this seems like it would be kind of okay, right? Pin Street Dodger is awesome for Cavalcade. I think they might be slightly better than Hawks. Shocks are kind of okay. I almost want to see like Bone Crusher Giant in this list for spot removal and to have a thicker creature, but it might be too slow. That should do it for creatures, I think. My knowledge. And then we might want like 1 or 2 so just like a lot of 1-drops. I think I would change it to be more like this though. I think I like this a little bit more. One of Johnny's kind of okay as like a top end card. And then for the sideboard, I'm not really sure exactly what I would do. I would do like 2 Soul Guide Lanterns because there's no sideboard here. So I need to reset this filter, the reset button right here. So Soul Guide, because this is an uncommon. So like 2 of these for like Rakdos lists sometimes. Other times we could do like, what could we do? Be for like Jeskai Cycle mostly, and then sometimes Uro and whatnot. Then like maybe Unbreakable, but Unbreakable's not budget is the problem. Like there's no like indestructibility that we can really run aside from fight as one, and we don't have enough humans to really validate that. Well, that's kind of tough. Like how do we beat control without rares? Like the question, right? I guess Decree is fine. Like 2 Decrees, maybe Red Cap if we're running into another a lot of other aggro. Maybe like 2 or 3 Red Caps could be okay. And we need something for Planeswalkers potentially, but I don't like any of our options for the most part. Like Prison Realm just gets bounced or ECD'd, etc. It's kind of hard to fight those. I'm not really sure what we can sideboard in to help against that. Like some longevity, you know what I'm saying? Like against control. And I don't want to recommend oh, Fry, I guess. Fry's fine. Fry's good in budget, and it takes care of Teferi and most of the planeswalkers that bug you. So like 2 Fries. It also kills like Yorion and such, which is kind of nice. Let's say like 2 or 3 Fries. And then it's like board wipes suck. I think that's just something we have to accept. We just try to get in under board wipes. I guess Chandra 6 could be okay, but that's not budget and it's rotating. What else has longevity in these colors? What else works? Like this helps versus control, so maybe like another bounty or 2. Here, maybe. Maybe 1 bounty for control. We don't have black or anything, so kind of a bummer. What else does mono red sideboard? We have access to a mono red list here. It's like be here somewhere. So give me just a sec. Mono red. Oh yeah, Phoenix of Ash, but that's not a rare. Tibalt, that's an easy one. Tibalt's a good one. That gives us some longevity as well. And it gives tokens too. This guy's awesome. This guy might even belong main board to some capacity. Get flyers for the main attack and use tokens to throw for blocks. Yeah, I gotcha. Gotcha. I kind of switched it around a bit. I pushed it more toward a Cavalcade deck because that seemed like the fastest way to win, like the strongest way, and to kind of go in on that. And then to have some spot removals with like shocks still, so you can blow through. And then other than that, you kind of just punch through with the damage. I'm not really sure if this Ajani's doing too much anymore because we don't really have a lot of life gain anymore. Like this. So like maybe we can cut this for like a Tibalt. Maybe even 2 Tibalts main. And we cut something else. Like maybe 1 Gingerbread or something. Kind of like the idea of 2 Tibalts main. Just because it shuts off a lot of decks. And I trimmed one or 2 lands. Here we're down to 21. I don't think we really need Evolving Wilds either. It might just be better to run Windscarred. I think. Even though the tap lands are a little tough. And then I'm trying to get the sideboard ready for you. I think maybe we could go 4 Fries, but that's a little much. This 4 red caps would be fine. Like if you're up against aggro, you can simply just punch them in the face with this. It's also okay against like Questing Beast. Because you can like you just sack a land and deal with Questing Beast for 1 mana instant speed. It's definitely worth the trade-off. And then maybe another Decree or something. Or we already have 4 Tibalts main. Like if we do it that way. Maybe like second one of these for control or for Teferi. I don't know though. Really close. Close. I'd say like this is a little rough, but I would say try something like this to see if you get quicker games more. Because like the way that you had, oh yeah, Night Pack Ambusher too. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yep, it just punches anything for 4 toughness basically. It's just really nice. And the soul guides are for Jeskai Lantern. So this will be up on YouTube too if you want a reference for it. I'll try to put in timestamps too, but that's a lot. But I'll export this list, and it has just some commons and uncommons. I didn't add any rares because I gotta feel like it was a budget list for you. So I budgeted it out. So I'll have whoops. So let's go to Aether Hub, and your name is Jim, right? So I'll type in like Jim's budget, and I'll include this link because this is the 3rd deck. So Jim's you red, or not you, white, red, have standard. We can do standard best of 3 because we added a sideboard to it. Okay, import, boom, import, and now we'll copy and paste this. This is the 3rd deck we're reviewing, yeah. So this is the 3rd list, so I'm just gonna paste it here so that way people can see the deck. But that's what I would do, is just to sort of like make it more about Cavalcade and less about trying to do something awkward with flyers, because that just seemed like, if you want flyers, I would say like U-White would be a bit better or something. Like Blue-White with some of the banners and just a lot of pump effects and whatnot. That's what I would do with it. So we can close this out. I already copied that. And then this is a futuristic deck, Shrine of all Shrine decks. No sideboard, so this is set up for best of 1, I guess. We'll see what this looks like. So these are a lot of new cards that I don't know about. So we've got 1 Shrine of here, 1 Shrine of the 1-drop, 1 2-drop Shrine, some stuff that tutors out for enchantments, okay. A lot of omens. How many lands? 26 lands, okay. You can dig it. Especially with search here, like where we're getting lands. It's mostly Bant based, with some support to cast these spells, I guess. Oh, Calyx is gross. It's a good one. I like it. 4 Fabled. So we can look for the black source with Fabled, which is interesting. No Triomes. I find that pretty interesting too. No Triomes to cycle or anything. I had to question that, but looks interesting either way. Like, I'd almost like it more than the Scrylands, like Triomes, because you can always chuck them to draw a card as soon as you need it, or they're just good lands. Like, they seem to have more instant gratification on payoffs as soon as you like want to use them. Like, you could be like, oh, I need to Shatter the Sky like right now, and then chuck the land end of turn to find a Shatter instead of scrying for it, which might be a little slower. Or you have enough lands to cycle and cast the Shatter in the same turn, whereas the scry off the top will just kill you. So I would like to see some amount of Triomes, especially to get like, you know, the 1 black source that you need or whatever, or the 1 red source. No Shatters is... No, we have 4 Shatters, so that's good. We have the Archons for a payoff there, since these are both enchantments and shrines. Dryad or Uro for ramp. I could see that being okay. I don't like Dryad or Uro in lists that don't run like extra lands. I think the Dryad's a little bit easier because it's like they just tap for extra lands, right? Like straight up. Whereas Uro and Growth Spiral both require you to have extra lands. I think Omen of the Hunts might be good enough because, for one, they have Flash, so you can like pretend to have a counter spell up, right? And then for 2, it's It's like it takes a land out of your deck and puts it into play, and it searches for the awkward lands that you need for swamps and plains, like swamps and mountains. I mean, for this, so I do like that. I do like that about the deck. I don't like the thing that I don't like is that we have 4 Fabled Passage, and we have what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basics. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have perfectly enough, right? Perfectly enough. Does Mythos work, or is the token legendary? It's legendary as well. You probably don't need Mythos unless you want to fight over ECDs and such. It is legendary though, I believe. Yeah, it's legendary. So it won't work with the shrines. So those could be freed up for more ramp or more Narset. It's silly not to run Teferi as well. Like, why aren't we? Those should just be Teferis, right? Or like ECDs or something. Yeah, so we'll do that. So making room for ECDs, making room for Teferis would be fine. Maybe a split, maybe like 3 and 1 or something. I could see. We also have all of the sideboard too if we're not just running this in best of 1. So a lot of the weaknesses main deck here we could definitely adjust for. This being said, I don't really know what's going to be good or bad. More shrines. More shrines could be fine too. It's whatever you want, basically. I think Teferi is just too good not to run though. Like, why are we running Narset and not running Teferi? Like, that's silly. Narset's harder to cast. She doesn't do as much. Like, she doesn't turn off the opponent's counter spells, right? Which means that you could land your sanctums and such. I would say we need Teferi before we need anything else. I'd just cut the Mythos, all 4 of them, for Teferis and be like, yo, what's up? And you can just roll out like he usually does. Narset can search, but so can Teferi -3, right? Draws you a card, it deals with an annoying enchantment or a creature or whatever. Narset doesn't protect herself at all. Teferi can. Like, Teferi is just too good, man. Like, there's a reason why he's ran like 4 times in like Bant and U-White, etc. Anything that runs these colors runs 4 Teferis. Unless there's a strong reasoning behind not running Teferi. I think we should run them. Unless the answer is I just don't like Teferi and I don't want to play with them, and that can be fine. Full white green then if you don't need blue. Yeah. I mean, you could, yes. Yeah. You could do that. And just have the other ones splash colored. Could be okay. That is possible. Makes running something like the creature that says whenever you play an enchantment you draw a card as well more viable. Yeah, ECD, yeah. No, that's definitely a direction we could take for sure. Yep. Dryad, I don't know about Dryad. Dryad's still like 2 thumbs down for me. I don't think the card is good enough. But yeah, we could go more blue-white for sure. Or not blue-white, green-white. I'd say that that's completely reasonable. And you have less of these shocklands, more of the other ones like Temple Gardens and such. I just think that I would also fix the lands here. Like 7 targets with omens is pretty bad, I think, on top of Fable. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Is healing? Yeah, I mean, Omen of the Sun covers that, right? Omen of the Sun. Pretty easy just to do that. And then like cutting Narset gives you more room as well. So it's pretty cool. This can also add the like land that you couldn't find 4 of that land to cast this as well, which is cool. Yeah, you cut some shock lands. Heliod's Interventions. No, I'd say just more Omen of the Suns. Archeon also has enough healing. Like, if you don't have enough healing and you have this and you have a million enchantments and you have omens, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's enough healing for anyone. Should be fine. Especially when you can search with the tutor for the Omen of the Sun for life gain. Like, it's just easy. It's like easy money. Birth of Meletus could be fine for life gain too. And you could also search for, it's also an enchantment that you can, double up on Archeons for, etc. You could also make this into a Yorian list and go 80 cards so you can bounce these enchantments and get more value off of them. Like, the sky is the limit, man. You can do whatever you want with this deck. For the most part. I'd say I like the Yorian value off of like Suns and Omens of the Hunt, and getting procs off of these to push yourself over the top. And it also makes it so you don't have to have the lands competing for each other. So you can run more basics like for Birth and whatnot. You don't find cards, yeah. But I mean, you have a lot of search with Calyx and stuff too. So it's not like you're going to be sad. You also have Omens to scry too. Like, you can crack and scry. The only time I don't like Yorian, right, is in lists that have a sideboard. And it looks like you're best of one right now, buddy. You know? So that's not really the concern. So I would say that you have options. Like, if you want more life gain, I'd say Meletis, Birth of Meletis. Is M21 out? Not yet. Not yet. All of the spoilers are out, but the set itself isn't out quite yet. I think the early access event is on like the 24th, I think, if my memory is serving me correctly. This is just a, this is critique for viewers. So you don't need to worry about colors. Yeah. Yeah, like, you have a lot of options and there's a lot of flexibility. These are also not rares, they're uncommons, so it's very easy to craft this and test with it, right, if you already have all the other pieces. Yeah, I think green-white's pretty good. Green-white, maybe Birth, if you want life gain, easy life gain, 2 life. You can also flash that if you end up adding Yorian potentially too. And that should be a lot easier. Maybe some type of like graveyard recursion, like a 1 of Tamiyo or something, could be really, really spicy and go a really long way in a 60 card pile. Like, if you're going to include like 1 or 2 blue cards, I think Tamiyo is definitely good, because then you can just -3 and pick up whatever you need. Like, what if they end up blowing something up? That's what I would do there. So that's going to be it for the viewer decks. Hope that this was useful. If you guys want your own list reviewed, simply stop by the stream on Thursdays around probably, I'd say 6 p.m. Central Time, CT. And we'll just chill out and we can review your list. We do it every single Thursday, and the video comes out on Saturday. It gets scheduled to come out then. You don't have to be subbed or followed to the channel or anything. You just simply drop by and be like, hey, I want this list reviewed for next week. You can even put it in the comments below with a link to your deck list. It'll be in the next video. So hopefully this was helpful. I make a new YouTube video every single day. So if you guys like content and it's consistent and everything, definitely feel free to subscribe. There'll be a little button you can click at the end of this video, or you can just click on the bottom of the page somewhere. And if you guys have any questions, comments, any of that stuff, feel free to drop them in the comments below, or just drop by the stream. Stream pretty much every day. We're trying a new schedule out from 2 p.m. until like 8 p.m., maybe sometimes 10 p.m. Like right now it's almost 9 and I'm still streaming, so appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next video.